Holla, holla. Holla, holla, holla. We back in the house now for a show. What up, Joe? He's on the book. He's on the Twitch. The man is everywhere you want to be. And I like it. Where should we go from here? Let's start over here. What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the show. Partial construction done. It's halfway there. Halfway is better than no way, I guess. But what are you gonna do? We got something done. It was a slightly bigger undertaking than I had assumed. It's getting there, though. It's a work in progress. Under construction is what we are. What are you going to do? Hope you all had a great weekend. Mother's Day. Hope we did Mother's Day. Mother's Day. Hope we did Mother's Day. But when we made the decision to go with a darker stain, excuse me, a little outside of my throat. We made the choice to go with like a darker stain color. So this is a red mahogany. Like we noticed, like if you don't really sand down the palette, if you don't sand it almost perfectly smooth, like it's really super dark. So what we ended up doing was I'd already sanded a bunch of them, had a handful left to finish up, and then went back and resanded a bunch of stuff. So yeah, it was added to the process, and then staining. All the rest of the palettes are stained and ready to go up, but then you got to do all the measuring. There's measuring here, and the studs are in weird spots on this wall. I don't know. It was awkward. But no, after the show today, we are going to finish it up. Need a planer. I do need a planer. That would have made life so much easier. I did. Thank you to my buddy Mark. Saturday morning we went out and Nick did yoga, and I was up and I was getting ready to meditate, and my cousin's like, "Let's go out to breakfast." I was like, I want to get started on this wall. I want to get it done before Monday's show. Long story short, I went out to breakfast. My buddy Mark was out there too, and he's like, "Oh, I got a belt sander, little handheld belt sander." So I had a little hand one, those little like it fits in the palm of your hand, like that thing. But a belt sander got some shit done. We're just like vroom, vroom, we're just killing it. So sanding them all down, then sanding them all down again, and then staining all of them and lining them all up to dry and on 2x4s. But we made some progress. And if I start to sound a little loopy, it's because it kind of smells like stain in here. Ooh-wee. It's got a bit of a vibe to it. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a bit of a thing. But I don't mind it. I don't mind it whatsoever. It's all good. So that was our productive weekend. The stream is broken. Well, that's no good. We gotta fix that stream. Yeah, we're still posting on YouTube though. There's that problem. That's good there. Yeah, I noticed we had something that jumped up here and said that it was trying to connect. Stream is disconnected, attempting to reconnect. I don't know what's going on. I don't know, and I don't like it. Maybe it's the interwebs again. The monsters are loose in the interwebs. That's probably the problem. That's my guess. But long story short, we made some progress over the course of the weekend. So this is slightly more than halfway. So after today, that I will regain my construction, put my construction hat back on, and hopefully have this well finished before tomorrow's show. So it was a productive weekend. It was a productive weekend. We dropped a new T-shirt on Friday. I don't know if you saw that, which was super cool. Lean Into Your Weirdness. The Lean Into Your Weirdness shirt is out. It's only available in white with the black lettering, but we're going to flip the script on that and have a black shirt with white lettering. So CoopervilleClothing.com. Check it out. The Lean Into the Weirdness shirt just dropped on Friday, and it's available for you right now. You can only see green and red. Interesting stuff. Mondays, my favorite day of the week. Not many people can say that. Most people do not like Mondays. But Mondays are my favorite day because my good buddy Dr. J jumps on the show, and he is in the green room, and he is now, I'm going to unmute his microphone. There we go. Dr. J, are you there? I try to figure out your microphone. Can't unmute guests because they chose to mute themselves, it says.
Should be good now.
There we go. Now we're cooking with gasoline now. How you doing, sir?
Doing great. How are you doing today?
It was a productive weekend. As you can see, construction project number 47 is currently halfway completed, which will be completed by the end of the day today. So no, it was a good weekend. Got things done.
One of these days, I'm going to actually have to come in and do a live appearance in the studio. I think that'd be fun in the new digs.
Yeah, that was kind of the idea behind this, is that instead of having a space back here where set up the appropriate way, you could have two guests, myself and a guest, or two guests in here, and I'll sit down and do all the things. So that's on the list. This is a bigger undertaking than I thought. It was one of those things. Have you ever had those moments where you're like, oh yeah, this is like a day and a half project, and it's a little longer than that?
I'm just shocked you were able to find resources like 2x4s and nails and, simple things like that. A buddy just told me he bought an 8-foot 2x4, cost him $10.
Yeah, I think these were $8.50 a piece for untreated stud. And yeah.
Last year, this time, they were about 150% less.
Is there a shortage in the supply chain, Dr. J?
Yeah, you think so?
I don't know.
It's this thing that's leading to mass inflation. Your listeners definitely need to start paying attention to it, because it's here and it's happening really fast.
I've definitely noticed it, obviously, in even these materials. Luckily, pallets are still free. There's a pallet wall, so the pallets were free, but the other stuff, the screws and the nails and the even like belt sander stuff, I was like, wow, this seems like it's exorbitantly priced. But the other place I've really noticed that is going into the grocery store and starting to pick up on things like this. This seems like a really high price to pay for a pound of bananas, and it's not like, oh my gosh, they're $3 a pound, but it's noticeably more expensive to go buy food these days, which perks the ears a little bit.
If you remember, we had a conversation, I don't know, a few times previous, and I talked to you about some of the national numbers are showing that there's going to be a 12% reduction in buying power by the consumer this year due to inflation. We're already beginning to see that with a massive spike in fuel costs. And now, because as fuel continues to rise, everything that is impacted by fuel is going to rise in partnership with it. So anything that's delivered to a store, which is everything, right, or delivered to your home from Amazon, which is everything, is going to go up in price because delivery costs are going to go are scaling significantly as well.
I did hear the expectation of $4 a gallon of gas by the time we hit the 4th of July weekend. So that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, it's interesting how that happened in just 6 months.
Yeah. The turnaround is amazing.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah, and that's not going away anytime soon, by the way. So again, right, all these people started buying big SUVs, and we're going to see that flip again. You're going to be able to find an SUV in about a year. They're going to be a dime a dozen.
That'll be pennies on the dollar. Get yourself a nice used SUV. Probably buy a
Absolutely.
Soccer moms decided they don't need to. They only have one kid. They don't need to have 8 seats. They're okay. I've seen it happen. Pulling up to the school, I'm like,
yeah, it's $80 to fill up every time you go.
It's ridiculous. But and there's other things too that I think you're starting to see on the horizon as far as pricing goes and affecting the oil stuff. Obviously, you do have the major pipeline that was shut down by internet hackers over the course of the weekend. So that's always fun to know that we're all safe and secure in our in the cyber warfare that continues to go on. So a lot of things that seemingly can be unnoticeable, but if you start to pay attention to them, and we've started kind of trying to become more self-reliant, a little more self-providing. We get growing the garden in the back. We're looking at putting up a greenhouse and just little things like that. That we eat a lot of vegetables, we eat a lot of fruits and stuff like that. So just having those things instead of buying like $12 for a little thing of raspberries now, something ridiculous like that. But I would throw a couple of raspberry bushes up back there and become a little more self-sustaining.
I mean, like it used to be a couple of generations ago where we lived off the land. We grew and raised our own food, whether it's, meat, poultry, certainly of your fruits and vegetables. But, the convenience of being able to just go out and purchase anything you want is great. But then you're also at the mercy of the marketplace. And as prices rise as they are, it's going to become more and more difficult. So it's a brilliant idea to become more self-sustaining in a variety of ways. It's just better for you when you raise your own fruits and vegetables, because you can control what goes into your soil. You can prevent, all the harsh chemicals and pesticides that are all very dangerous, the phosphates to our health and well-being. So anytime you can take control and do it more naturally is going to be better for you. It just takes a little bit of elbow grease and a little bit of Mother Nature and a little bit of patience. And but the end result is really outstanding. And by the way, the flavor is way better too, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like you wouldn't think it would be as significant of a difference than it is. You're like, wow, I almost had forgotten what cucumber tasted like until you actually have one fresh out of the garden, and it's amazing. And yeah, the little elbow grease, and it'd be nice if those who are in control of the weather would help make it rain a little bit around here, but the sprinkler will have to do for now until they start rationing water. I'm just kidding. That's probably not going to happen. I'm just saying.
We hope.
maybe not. I'm just trying to give people some perspective. But always good to have you on, Dr. J. I know I sent you a couple of ideas and wanted to chat about some things. There was something that I wrote down on a notepad because that's my jam. Obstacles of success. It came into my periphery on Friday's show. Actually, I was getting done with things, and I don't obviously spend the weekends just like hanging out and chilling, doing stuff. There's projects to do. Obviously, we worked on the garden this weekend as well. But it did get me thinking about it as I was planning the week ahead. And this is advice that I got from you at one of our conversations about looking at your week as what do I do on Monday that helps me accomplish things I need to get done on Tuesday, and kind of a natural progression of setting yourself up for success by accomplishing one thing, stepping on the ladder and accomplishing the second thing. So I was thinking about all that stuff, and I was putting my weekend calendar together and then looking forward to the week. And there was just some contradicting things that were popping into my calendar. Like, oh, that overlaps that, and I really wanted to get this done. And, we're leaving on vacation a week from tomorrow. And so I'm like, I want to make sure I have all these things kind of squared away before we're gone for 6 days, which I know you've told me the value of going on vacation as well. So really looking forward to that. But it got me thinking about this obstacles of success when you're trying to progress forward in anything, whether it's in business, whether it's in physical fitness or mental fitness, all these things. Distractions and obligations elsewhere really can deter you from creating those steps to success. So that was in the back of my mind throughout the course of the day, and even happened with this project here. And no deference to anybody, but it was my girlfriend's mother's birthday and Mother's Day, so we had a little cookout on Saturday night. and I was knee deep in this project, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take the break and go enjoy, some time with the fam, and then get back at it on Sunday. Well, that led to approximately 4 inches, or I should say 4 feet, that need to be finished tonight. So things pop up, things happen. That's understandable. But what are some of the some advice that you give when you talk about overcoming obstacles on a path to success in business or in physical fitness and health? Things that you can offer up for the listeners, and things that you often offer up to your clients as well.
You don't believe you can achieve it. You've all heard it, right? If you can't believe it, you're not going to achieve it.
Right.
Then forget about it. Whatever it is that you believe is ultimately what will become your reality. If you believe that I can do it, even though you don't know how to do it yet, ultimately you're going to figure out a way to figure it out and get it done. So the belief system, number one, is the most important thing. And not having a belief in your dream or in yourself ultimately is going to lead to failure. Number two is know-how, right? When you start a new path, you want to, maybe pursue a new endeavor, start a business, something you didn't really know about. Know-how is important, even if you have a strong belief, because ultimately it could be a major obstacle in achieving what you want, because you can only go so far based on what you know. So you and I have talked about the importance of mentorship and relying on people who've already done what you wanted to do as a resource and tool to help you get where you want to go. And then the third is want to. My experiences with people, lots and lots of people want to improve themselves, but are not willing to do the work, right? Because they know it sounds good, and they know it's probably what they should say, but they really deep down are just they're comfortable with the comfortable. They never become comfortable with the uncomfortable. So the current status of where we're at just feels too good, and I don't want to pursue it. And you know what? That may be fine too. There's no judgment in that. If you're happy with where you're at, then by all means, you know what? Embrace it and enjoy it. Now, when I come from the different perspective, and I talk about the 6 keys to success, which will guarantee your success, and I call it the success formula. And I'll share it with you briefly, and it goes like this. It's P plus T times A plus F plus T will guarantee your success. So what does that mean? So P, number 1, is passion. I've yet to meet. Number 2 is talent. So the first T is talent. You got to have some ability. You got to have some skill sets. You got to have some knowledge, as we just talked about. So if you pair that with your passion, you're well on your way. Now, the first A is associations. This is, who do you surround yourself with? Now that you have the passion and the talent, it's going to help you on your path. You just mentioned this, right? This is friends, family, coaches, whatever it might be. And conversely, who are you surrounding yourself with that might be undermining your dream because it makes them uncomfortable? So they're giving you all the reasons why you're not going to succeed. So that works on both ends, right? The second A is actions. So we've got the passion, talent, and associations. The second A is actions. This is the work. Are you willing to put the time in? Are you willing to grit and grind day in and day out? Because if you're not, forget about it. Don't waste your time. Now, the next formula or element in the formula is F. And this is faith. This is not necessarily a theological faith, although it could be for some people. That's really, really important. But this is a belief in yourself that you can and will overcome any adversity that comes in front of you, because ultimately there always will be, every single day. Some will be little molehills. Others will be Mount Everest. How do you deal with it? How do you handle it? Can you make it happen? Do you have your faith in yourself? And sometimes then it relies upon a faith in something greater than yourself to help that you believe is ultimately going to help you find the solutions so you can scale that mountain. And then the final T, element number 6, is time. Success takes time. It's said that God's delays is not God's denials. Are you willing to put the time in? And it kind of goes along with the work. And in every aspect of my life, Coop, that I've worked this 6-step formula without fail, ultimately the outcome is guaranteed. So to me, I call that my success formula. And it's never failed me or let me down. I'll say P plus T times A plus F plus T. And if you work that formula, there's nothing you can't accomplish.
I think that's fantastic way to break it down into something that's that people can associate every one of those letters with every one of the parts of that formula with how they reach the success level. Like, okay, am I passionate about life or this project or being in shape, or like what am I driven to do this, or is this just like a whimsical thing, or and everybody else is doing it, or I think if I do this, then I'll attain something in the end, whether that's financial freedoms or whatever. But without that, which makes sense that it's the first thing in the formula, is to be passionate about it. And obviously, it's something that you preach about on the podcast and in your books as well, is finding that passion and then moving further down the equation. Now, I think that's a really smart way to achieve success. And the fact that it's never let you down, we've talked about this before too. If it's been done, it's the 4-minute mile thing.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's going to do the 4-minute mile until somebody does it. And then everybody's going to do it. So when you have track records of success, or you have mentors that you've talked about many times on the show, people that have helped influence you and push you past obstacles and things like that. If it's been done and you follow along and you follow the equation, ultimately you get the same result. Now, there's going to be different levels, I think, and you'll probably be able to, I would assume, gauge when you get further into that equation. If something, it's like when you do an actual math problem, not the new math stuff that I try to do with my son, because I'm like, this new math, like, no, this doesn't make any sense. But if you are in the midst of your equation and you can go back and look at each one of the elements that's in the equation and say, I'm lacking in this. Like, I thought my passion level for this project was going to be like skyrocket through the roof. It was at the beginning. Maybe that's not there. Do you find that those things can tail off once you start to get further down the equation, and you have to look back, kind of like looking back on your work and be like, man, I was really jazzed about this, or maybe my faith has changed or altered in some way, and you have to kind of make adjustments as you go through the process?
Yeah, without question. I think you just really nailed it right there. The passion is, as I mentioned, is the fuel that sustains you.
Mm.
So as you move on down the trail, if you're really not passionate about it, you're not going to want to see it through. You're not going to want to grind and do the work. So that's why, to me, I mean, it's right over my shoulder here. Passion. It's how I formed the brand, Power, Passion, Prosperity, because it's such a key ingredient to anything, any level of success in life. It's interesting. You talked about the 4-minute miler.
Mm.
He had a belief that he can run a 4-minute mile.
Right.
Up to that point, no one believed it was possible.
Mm.
Once he achieved it, and other people started to believe, well, if he could do it, why can't I do it? Then you start to see a bunch of 4-minute miles. And that's what has to happen. Someone has to have a belief in something that hasn't been done yet and do it. And all of a sudden now it becomes something that many other people can attach their wagon to, because all of a sudden there's proof in the pudding.
Mm.
If he did it, I can do it. I'm going to do it as well too. So that belief part's really strong.
Yeah, and there's a lot of great documentation. If you're on a path and you're putting this formula into action and you're looking for that that person that's done something that you are looking to do or something similar, there's plenty of documentation out there, and a lot of them follow a lot of the same strategy on how they got to the point that you're looking to get to. So I think following along in people's footsteps is a super key thing. Like, okay, I know he wanted to run the 4-minute mile. He believed he was going to run the 4-minute mile. What were the anecdotal things that he did? What did he eat the night before his first attempt to get the 4-minute mile? What did he eat the night before he actually achieved the 4-minute mile? Training regimen, all the things that he put into the package that ended up getting this accomplishment that then opened the floodgates to it. So if you want to be the next Bill Gates, okay, don't do that. If you want to be the next, let me find somebody else, whomever, Elon Musk, or you want to be somebody who's like super successful, you want to invent the next great product, or you've found something around your house, you're like, I found something that makes this life easier. I want to mass produce it and become an entrepreneur and an inventor. Like, find the people that have done those creative things before. Find the people that have, dug their feet into the dirt and got dirty and found their way into success. Because I think there's always little anecdotal things you can pick out from other people who have been successful and put that into your equation and ultimately achieve what you're trying to achieve.
I have a firm belief that every problem that ever exists in the universe has already been solved. We just need to find the resources that have solved it and then apply it to our own life. And so for your listeners out there who may be struggling right now or dealing with an issue, what I'm saying is that problem's already been solved. We just have to open our heart and mind to the solution or to the messenger who might have the solution. And I've been guilty of this as before, especially earlier in life, is we have this mentality in the United States is I'm going to go it alone. It's, the glory is in achieving something and doing it myself. Maybe. But what I found out is the glory is when you can come together with others and achieve something. That's really special. And so, letting go of ego and making it about you rather than making it about the result and finding whoever you can to help you achieve that. And also I find as a result, you get to where you want to go faster and it saves time and definitely saves money. Guarantee that.
Yeah. And we've talked about not want to say ease necessarily, but the big step is finding first setting the ego down, not being like, no, this is mine. I'm going to do it all on my own, even though there's 15 different moving parts and I can only handle 3 of them. You overextend yourself, you get burnt out because you're trying to keep all the plates spinning in the air. But the big step after setting that ego down is making that reach out to, whether it's a coach or whether it's somebody who's in the field that you want to be in or that you're getting into, and humbly asking them for a piece of advice or asking them if you can, hey, I want to come and just shadow what you do for a day, just so I can absorb some of the habits that you implement into your day that allow you to achieve such success. That can be very, very scary for people to make that reach out. But I think the thing that I found with guys like you and anybody else who's helped me along the way, as far as like, I have a question about setting up a shop on Shopify, or I have a question about, how do I run Adobe Illustrator because I want to start making my own graphic designs for my own shirts. Like, you can ask. And it seems like people who have had that success, who've achieved it or are going through the equation right now, they are super willing to offer you their 2 cents and say, hey, here's a little trick that helped me out. This was super easy. I ended up doing this instead of this, and it really changed my trajectory and helped me achieve ultimately where I was trying to get. So reaching out to people can be a scary thing, but when you start to do it, it kind of becomes like, oh yeah, like people who have done this probably have more knowledge on this than I do. The guy who ran the 4-minute mile probably knew exactly what he was putting in his body, the kind of shoes he was going to wear, down to the fabric that his shorts are made out of. Like, he had all that stuff on lock, and all you have to do is ask him, like, so, like, got some sort of special gasoline in those Nikes, or you? And they're more than willing to share that kind of information with you, I think, because people who are successful want to see other people succeed and not necessarily keep them, at bay or keep them down. I think they're more than willing to share their insight.
I 100% agree with you, but it's interesting though, right? I mean, I can do a presentation, 500 people in a room, and give a lecture on a specific skill set. Apply this, do this, get this result. And why is it that out of the 500, 20% will take it and just absolutely go crush it? 20% won't do anything. And 60% will get some results, not so much results, and then they stop doing it. So what's the difference? The difference is that the individual who takes and goes with it don't necessarily care a whole lot about the process in the sense of, again, let's use the 4-minute mile. What he ate, the shoes he wear, how much sleep did he get that night? Important? Perhaps. But most important is an absolute belief and commitment that they were going to get it done. And that can even overcome any other flaws in the process, ultimately, which will lead to the result and the victory that you want. So, it's it's so individualized. And I always find that so fascinating when I'm in a room and I'm talking to an audience, no matter what the size is that it's always the 20-60-20 rule in an audience. And they say, well, how come I got such amazing, or how come they got such amazing results and I didn't? And I said, it's very simple. It's the 6 inches between your ears. It's the only difference.
Yeah. And I think there's a certain group, a certain percentage of people who go to a speaking engagement with Dr. J, and they go, well, I'm going to go to this, and just automatically, like he's got, it's the Matrix. He's got the 2 pills, and he's going to magically give me this pill, and I'm going to take it, and all of a sudden I'm just going to be successful. When you realize that there is work involved and you have to have all of the elements, all of the pieces and parts you talked about with the equation, like you have to do something with them. The ones who crush it, they get it. They're like, yep, okay, if I do these things, I get the result. The other one's like, well, I'm passionate. I don't know about my faith in it, but if I just do this, maybe I can just skip over all of them and magically I'll be successful. They have this assumption that if I go to something, if I go to see Dr. J, or I go to see Sean Whalen, or I go to see somebody else, and they're just getting me riled up, and they're telling me, here is what you need to do to be successful. You're like all of it? What if I just do a little bit? Like if I do a little,
it's true.
If I just do if I don't have to change anything in my life except for just a little bit, like if I get up at 6:15 instead of 6:30, like does that now, am I more successful? Like, no, here's the map. Here are the things. Apply these things, get results. Like, oh, I thought success was going to be easy. I thought I just came to see Dr. J, and then I walked out and I was successful. Like, no, there's a part to it. By the way, before the show started, so I'm sitting here and I'm getting ready. I got to find out where I put my Post-it note, and another T-shirt idea pops into my head, and it says, "I listened to Dr. J and Dr. Dre."
Nice.
That is going to go on a T-shirt. I'm telling you.
All right. Well, hey, man, I'm in on that.
We had a little, like, after we got back from Saturday night, went to a grill out for Nick's mom, and her aunts were there, and we got back, and it's, we'll throw on like usually like some 80s music, and it's just, stupid times, and a Dr. Dre song came on, and I'm like, yeah, I listened to Dr. and I, mispronounced it. I said, I listened to Dr. J, and I was like, huh. And then I remembered it when I sat by down here. I'm like, yes, I listened to Dr. Dre and Dr. J, and that's going on a T-shirt. Coopervilleclothing.com. Go and check out the website. It'll be up in the next week.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That's awesome.
I got to get me one of those too.
Yep. We'll get you one. Don't you worry. It's proud supporter. But I think that's the kind of stuff, though. When you are passionate about stuff, like, even though it's work, even though it can be stressful at times, and there's going to be times when you're kind of in the dirt and you're just digging and you're crawling and you're not seeing maybe the results, but you talked about the T, you talked about time. It takes time. But if you just find those moments where you're like, that's really cool. Like I'm at a point where I can just make things happen. It's not great. We may sell 1 million I listen to Dr. Dre and Dr. J T-shirts. We might, but it's all a step in the process. It gets me excited about, being involved in this project and all the other things. And I think if you maintain that excitement, the work, even though sometimes it's a grind, it's gritty and it's dirty and it's not as great as you think it's going to be right out of the gate. If you still have that passion and energy about it, that is where that 20% that you talked about, that go and crush it, they're still just reeling off, smiles on their faces, and like, yeah, sometimes it sucks and it's not great. And I have to incorporate all the other things in my day, whether it's, I like to get a run in, I like to get a workout in, I like to make sure I'm, eating healthy. I like to make sure I have time and I sit down with my significant other, my family, and I like to have supper, and we like to spend time together. All that stuff. If you still get jazzed about ideas and coming up with new stuff for your business and your company, like, that's what makes every day waking up going, yeah, it's going to be a good one today.
Success is an all-in venture.
Mm-hmm.
It's not part-time.
Great word.
So you got to be all in. Yeah, it's something I tell people all the time. If you're not all in, don't waste your time.
Yeah. There's other things you can do to, fill the void in your life that's not, well, I'm half in. I
Yeah.
have a lot of passion, but everything else I'm kind of lacking on. I don't know really how long. Dr. J, always a pleasure, my friend. I know we wanted to talk a little bit about COVID. I know there was a big thing over the weekend. There was a boxing match, I believe, in Dallas, Texas, where they had 70,000 people in the stands watching a boxing match. And I was listening to a podcast on Friday that was kind of talking about that. And it was obviously, they're waving the flag for the great state of Texas. And they're like, well, we're wide open. Me, I'm like, I'm going to Florida. And Mom's like, why are you going to Florida? Not coming to see me in California. I'm like, because your state sucks. And I don't want, like, what are we going to do? We're not going to do anything. We're just going to like hang out and look at each other and talk. But any new things, insights from the world of COVID? And we talked a little bit about the financial stuff that may or may not be related, but what do you have that you've been keeping an eyeball on?
Yeah, so I saw this yesterday, and I thought this would be really interesting for everyone to know and hear. I saw this research article that said, according to experts on viral transmission mechanisms, who knew that even existed, right?
Did not.
They said that brief outdoor encounters present very low to almost no risk for the transmission of COVID-19. They stated that viral particles disperse outdoor in air, right? So the risk of inhaling aerosolized virus particles by passerbys is negligible at best. And they used a mathematical model that these researchers used to calculate the amount of time it would take for you to contract COVID outdoors. Now, that's assuming that 10% of the population in your area was positively infected. We're nowhere near, haven't been anywhere near that, now, even during its highest days, right?
Right.
It would require you, get this, to be outside 31 and a half days continuously to be exposed or inhale a dose of viral particles sufficient enough to transmit an infection. So for those of you who have been concerned and wondering, should I or shouldn't I wear a mask outdoors? I'm telling you, the research is absolutely conclusive. There is zero value wearing a mask outdoors. The other research has shown that your odds of transmitting it to others are 18.7 times greater indoors in an open air environment than it is outdoors. So it was just fascinating. And the interesting thing about this study, they studied this in multiple areas around the world. This just wasn't one offshoot study. They studied this in many different locations. And the last thing I wanted to share with everybody is, we've joked and laughed and talked about mask wearing, but there's some real impact here. And a German study found that the side effects of mask wearing for children has identified 24 physical and psychological and behavioral health issues, including irritability. Over 53% of kids have chronic headaches due to mask wearing, poor concentration, significant increase in anxiety, reduced happiness, a reluctance to go to school and socialize with their friends, depression, fatigue, drowsiness, and the list goes endless and endless and endless. And even in particular, again, which we know conclusively, kids are not super spreaders. It's just not the case. They just don't. So I think that's another thing we need to start considering as school is soon to be, if your location you have on-site school, which in our area we do, thank God. We really need to reconsider that, because I know a lot of school districts in the area are now not requiring mask wearing because the impact is far greater to the kids' emotional, physical, psychological well-being than it is the transmission of a virus. And we need to start thinking about the well-being of our kids and not being selfish about ourselves.
100%. And long-term effect as well. I mean, I know this was, in theory, a blip on the map in a child's life, but you want to talk about the most influential portions of their life, and especially when you get into a certain age bracket where they're starting to develop, whether it's relationships or they're going through changes, their body's starting to change, all these things are going on. You add on this other layer of things, you're going to end up with some long-term physical, mental, psychological issues that will look back and be like, pinpoint, this is when this all began. I mean, I've seen some things in my son where I'm like, there's some just very small nuanceical things that I pick up on that are just different. And, once you're like, well, he's 11. Twice you're like, 3, 4, 5 times you're like, there's something. There's something that is causing this. And I think, we talk about the school part of it. You talk about even at school having to be separated from their friends, social distancing, which now I think is at like 3 feet. I think because there's no difference between 6 feet and 60. I think we talked about that
that's true.
last time. But all of these things and having, going on in public and going into certain stores, and some are this way, some are that way, long-term emotional, psychological effects that these kids are going to have to deal with. I don't know how to walk them back from that, but then you also have that added element of, in a social media world where whatever they do is being judged. If you're going to school, hey, you shouldn't be going to school. If you're not going to school, you should be going to school. So there's a whole another layer when you talk about the difference in how they're socializing and acting with others, not just during COVID, but generally speaking in this day and age, as the kids say.
I'll give you a perfect example. We were out this past weekend, and we ran into some acquaintances that we knew. We just stopped and we chatted, and I found it interesting. They had 2 children, a boy and a girl, roughly 9 and 7-ish, somewhere around there. Okay, so early grade school. Yeah. And the 9-year-old was wearing a mask outdoors, and the mother and father and his sister were not wearing masks. And just an aside, I said, I'm curious, how come, I won't mention his name, why he's wearing a mask. And he said, he's deathly afraid to go or to not have a mask. And I said, wow. Where did that come from? He said, from school. It's been indoctrinated in his mind that he's going to kill somebody if he doesn't wear his mask, or himself.
Wow.
So we have hardwired this kid's subconscious mind into believing that he's a lethal weapon.
Wow. If
he doesn't wear a mask. And they're now going to be seeking psychological counseling for him.
That is a scary fact. And knowing that him, and then there's how many others that are having that same thing. And even if they're not, that is going to be in the back of their mind for a very long time. But oof. That's a tough,
it's heavy stuff, man. It really is. We need to start acting more responsibly and thinking in more broader sense in terms about the greater effect.
100%.
Because there is one, and it's starting to really reap its ugly head.
Awesome. Dr. J, always good stuff. Thank you so much for the time. Look for the I Listen to Dr. Dre and Dr. J's shirt coming this week. I'll send you the link, and and we'll make magic happen. But I always appreciate your insight and great stuff. Thank you for the stuff about overcoming obstacles and all the great information about the equations and things like that. We'll take notes, put them in the show notes as well. So always great to have your insight, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody wants more information on the success formula, just reach out to me. You can email me, drj@triplelife.com.
Awesome. Dr. J, always a pleasure. Enjoy your week. Go take after it, and we'll chat in a week.
Thanks, Coop. Be well, brother.
Do the same. Dr. J always has the good stuff. Your interest in mind. Think. Man, that story about the kid, though, that's, whew. That is something, and having a child in that age bracket too. I mean, these are things that like stick. You know what I mean? They get lodged in the brain, and it's a tough thing to chisel out. And you gotta keep all those things in mind. Everybody thinks that we're doing what we have to do, and we're doing what the requirements say. And you go, yeah, you're going to be dealing with this for a very long time. I don't want to say for the duration of their life, but it's always going to be something. So think about it. Be more responsible. Be more adult. I think that was great advice. Great stuff. And we came up with the shirt idea. So, I mean, today was a win. That is how you attack a Monday, is you get Dr. J on. You get jazzed up. Get informed. Joe, yeah, public schools are the devil. I'm a product of public schools. I turned out just fine. I kid because I care. yeah, it's a scary thing, and it's very. You want to talk about elementary schools? You want to talk about public schools? I mean, we can't even get into the things that are going on in universities across the country. I mean, that's. You want to talk woke agenda? Kind of spooky stuff, man. Kind of spooky stuff. But it's good to be aware. Good to be self-aware. Have eyes on what's going on. Perspective. That's why I bring Dr. J on. He's got the good stuff, man. Knows what's up. Back on the show tomorrow. Starts at 5 o'clock. Hopefully, with any luck. Yeah, it's almost 6. We'll have more of this well done. I will not make a prediction like I did on Friday and say it will be completed. But then maybe there'll be another row. I figured it about 20 minutes a row. And we went from nice up here. You can see there's like 6-inch boards, and then now we're down to 3. But it's all good. It's all part of the process. We'll get it done before we leave for vacation next week. It'll be fine. I'm almost sure of it. So until then, until we meet again tomorrow, take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. Dr. J at triplelife.com. If you want to reach out to Dr. J directly, great stuff. Great insight. Always a pleasure to have him on. So, y'all take care of yourselves. Joe, take care of yourself, man. Have yourself a good night. We'll do it again tomorrow. I promise.
Welcome to